Millions have played the games on the PlayStation, and now the wildly popular franchise God of War could be coming to the small screen. Amazon Prime Video is reportedly negotiating with Sony to obtain the rights for a live-action television series based on the games. While no deal has been confirmed yet, if it were to be finalized, the God of War series would join a long list of game adaptations that are currently in production. The God of War games make up PlayStation's flagship action-adventure franchise. News of a potential series based on the games has been welcomed by fans world over. Speculations over who could be cast to play the protagonist Kratos have already begun. Even though the first God of War game released in 2005 for the PlayStation 2, many expect a potential series to focus on the Norse era, which was introduced in the reboot in 2018. It remains to be seen what path the producers would take, but the series could be exploring different timelines for different seasons. The God of War series is being looked at as an opportunity to bring the popular franchise to television. Deadline reports that the adaptation is being eyed by The Expanse creators and executive producers Mark Fergus and Hawk Ostby, along with the Wheel of Time producer Rafe Judkins. If the series got the confirmation, it would be produced under the banner of Sony Pictures Television and PlayStation Productions, as they collaborate on all content based on PlayStation games. The God of War games focus on the journey of Kratos, a Spartan soldier who goes up against Greek gods to seek revenge for his slain family. The original trilogy focused a lot on Greek mythology, with Kratos eventually becoming the Greek god of war after defeating Ares, and after being betrayed by the Olympian gods, Kratos goes on a slaughtering revenge spree destroying the pantheon, but finally gives the power to hope to mankind at the end. However, the 2018 reboot sees him trying to build a new life in Scandinavia along with his son Atreus. While the goal sounds simple, Kratos is on a mission to scatter his wife's ashes as she wished, and there are many twists along the way. God of War 4 is the GOAT, and its popularity was through the roof upon release. As of now, the game has sold more than 20 million copies, based on official figures released by Sony. While there are currently 8 games in the God of War series, the sequel to the extremely popular 2018 game, God of War Ragnarok, is scheduled to release later this year for the PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5. With the epic reveal at the end of God of War about Kratos' son Atreus, it should be interesting to see where the sequel takes the duo. If you ask me, I would have neither wanted a live-action adaptation of God of War. But with the series hitting the skies, and with the latest success of the Uncharted movie which has done a box office record of more than $300 million, Sony will definitely try to capitalize on a huge franchise like God of War. It could come to fruition sooner than later, but I am a little bit convinced that it was adapted into a TV series, not a movie. With a TV series they could delve deep into the characters and lore, and speaking of it, the story and timelines the series could explore. These are my predictions. First, the timeline needed to be explored is the birth of Kratos and the transition of Kratos from his childhood to becoming a Spartan general and his bond with his wife and his daughter. God of War 1 novels and Chains of Olympus and Ghost of Sparta has a lot of flashback stories to Kratos' past, and that timeline will be interesting. The second opportunity is that they could explore the time in between God of War 3 and God of War 4, expanding on the God of War comics that recently came out in God of War 4's novel lore and legends, focusing on how Kratos got to Midgard, met Faye and the involvement of the Egyptian gods and Athena. The third timeline they could focus is the period between the beginning of Fimbulwinter and the events before when God of War Ragnarok starts. I want them to focus on the first timeline I have presented here, and do the continuation with respective seasons. As far as who should play as Kratos, I think Jason Momoa will be a good match, and I hope that series does do God of War justice. Speaking of PlayStation and TV shows, The Last of Us series with Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey won't be premiering on HBO this year, according to an executive at the network. The highly anticipated forthcoming HBO series, The Last of Us, will not debut this year. Based on the 2013 PlayStation game of the same name, the show is said to be the largest television production in Canadian history. Starring Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey, The Last of Us takes place 20 years after present society has been obliterated by a fatal virus. The series follows Joel, Pascal, a toughened survivor of the disease who was appointed to sneak a 14-year-old, Ellie Ramsey, out of a tyrannical quarantine zone to a cure-searching organization named the Fireflies. Soon, a brutal and heartbreaking journey ensues as the two must travel with only each other to depend on in the fight to stay alive. Clearly, the fans have plenty to look forward to, and while there was hope that the series would debut in 2022, so we will have to wait a bit longer. In a conversation with Deadline tied to TCA, HBO and HBO Max Chief Content Officer, Casey Bloys, provided an update on the development of The Last of Us, saying, "It's not going to air in 2022, they are still shooting in Canada. I imagine you will see it in 23. However, although the premiere is further away than expected, Bloys teased what is to come from the upcoming The Last of Us series. He said, "I have seen some early episodes, and I'm very excited. Craig, the creator, did Chernobyl for us. He is a fantastic writer and director. Evidently, The Last of Us is set to be a show full of action and excitement." Enthusiasts of the fantasy drama series Game of Thrones may also become fans of this video game adaptation, as both shows have been strongly compared to one another due to their genre, scope, and especially because Game of Thrones executive producer, Carolyn Strauss, is now working on The Last of Us. Despite the direct comparison, Bloys was swift in shutting down claims that his new show was attempting to follow in the footsteps of HBO's previous biggest series. "There is no next Game of Thrones. I've been here long enough that I've been through. What's the next Sopranos? What's next Game of Thrones? Now what's next Succession? There is no next Game of Thrones." The first season of The Last of Us will consist of 10 episodes developed by Craig Mazin and Naughty Dog's Neil Druckmann, the latter being the writer and director of the original game. Alongside Pascal and Ramsey, the series also features Anna Torv, Merle Dandridge, Nick Offerman, Nico Parker, Gabriel Luna, Jeffrey Pierce, and Murray Bartlett. With many fans of the 2013 video game eager to watch this new series, The Last of Us has plenty of expectations to meet. However, with all the excitement that has been revealed about the show so far, it seems they will not disappoint. Speaking of The Last of Us, in an unexpected turn of events, a Last of Us 2 data miner manages to find custom multiplayer armor for Ellie. While The Last of Us 2 doesn't have a dedicated multiplayer mode, as its predecessor did, some elements of it were in active development at some point in time. The game's multiplayer mode, where these work-in-progress armor suits likely came from, was subsequently separated into the purported The Last of Us faction's standalone title. In an unexpected turn of events, a The Last of Us 2 data miner has discovered hidden asset files for Ellie's multiplayer armor sets, as well as a variety of other interesting assets. Though the assets in question are fairly rough around the edges, they may offer a look at what was supposed to be coming at one point during the game's development. The data miner discovered 3 armor sets for Ellie in the game files. This discovery was covered in a video from Spickleiser, who noted that the armors very well could have been placeholders for future armor models that never ended up being made, as the assets are obviously unfinished. Odds are then that Ellie was going to be a playable character in The Last of Us 2's multiplayer, with the option to equip any of the 3 featured armor sets. When Naughty Dog moved to develop a standalone The Last of Us multiplayer game, however, things needed to be shifted around. The data miner also discovered 6 multiplayer exclusive backpacks, though they weren't able to load them into the game at all. The backpacks in question indicate some potential character roles that may or may not carry over to The Last of Us factions, depending on how similar it ends up being to The Last of Us 2. Backpacks are assault, melee, sniper, support, stealth, and tactical, offering a wide variety of gameplay options to players looking to niche out. While these data mines may have come out of the left field, the franchise itself is far from done. On top of the aforementioned faction's multiplayer title, there are rumors of The Last of Us 2 director's cut as well. Once all the pieces are set up and good to go, Sony and Naughty Dog are likely going to make a significant push to revitalize the franchise in the given news cycle, bringing it back to people's attention in relatively short order. Believe it or not, players are still discovering new things in The Last of Us 2, even today. While these data mines are unlikely to indicate anything specific about Naughty Dog's The Last of Us multiplayer projects, they're an interesting look at how this particular game's development may have gone at the time. Moving forward, after over a year of silence, Hogwarts Legacy, the upcoming Harry Potter RPG, is getting its own state of play later this week. As many know, Hogwarts Legacy is a full-blown RPG based on the popular franchise. There's not a whole lot known regarding Hogwarts Legacy's spells, world map, gameplay, or anything like that, but the premise has had fans hyped for a long time. Now, we can mark our calendars for a new, big info dump. The new state of play is scheduled for March 17th, at 2 p.m. Pacific Time 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Fans can expect this presentation to last around 20 minutes, with 14 minutes of those being Hogwarts Legacy gameplay on PS5 hardware. In other words, it sounds like the presentation is by and large a demo. It could be that the other 6 minutes are filled with more Hogwarts Legacy content like a story trailer and more, but it's confirmed that a few members of Avalanche Software will also discuss their work on the game. 14 minutes of presumably uninterrupted gameplay is a good chunk of viewing time, and will allow players to finally see exactly how the game plays. While gameplay and general world exploration will likely be a focus, hopefully, this also hones in on Hogwarts Legacy's character creation too. Really, 14 minutes is enough time to show a lot. If we are really lucky, perhaps there will be a release date for Hogwarts Legacy there too. The community manager of Avalanche Software has also confirmed a surprise for the show after the 14-minute gameplay showcase. It could be anything, like from a Hogwarts Legacy PSVR2 version, or timed PlayStation console exclusivity. This is the first state of play presentation to focus entirely on a single third-party game, and also the first to ever focus on a non-PlayStation console exclusive, unless it's announced during the show that Sony has acquired timed exclusivity over the game. The game will likely receive a release date announcement during the showcase, as just last week WB Games announced the release date for Gotham Knights, another of its big 2022 games. After an initial delay out of 2021, WB Games Montreal has finally confirmed its highly anticipated title Gotham Knights will be arriving in 2022. In an official tweet from the Gotham Knights account, the game's release date was confirmed to be October 25, 2022. Originally announced at the DC Fandom Digital event in 2020, Gotham Knights was a game that was likely impacted by the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, with developers working remotely and needing more time to create the best possible experience for fans. Although the tweet didn't divulge any new information outside of the release date, with only a few months left until Gotham Knights hits shelves, fans should expect plenty of news and reveals sooner rather than later. In fact, there may even be a play test right around the corner, as eagle-eyed fans on Steam noticed that a special beta version of Gotham Knights appeared on the service. However, the unannounced application was quickly taken down, though not before one fan was able to access and play through it. Plenty of rumors continue to arise related to Gotham Knights, including a special tie-in comic from Court of All creators Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo. While very much unofficial, the rumor began circulating after artist Greg Capullo tweeted out that he was currently working on a project that features notable DC characters. The included artwork features Nightwing, Batgirl, and another figure behind them, all appearing to wear costumes closely related to their Gotham Knights style. Fans naturally began to link the artwork to a comic tie-in with Gotham Knights to help promote and build excitement prior to the game's release. WB Games Montreal's Gotham Knights was first announced back in 2020 during the summer's DC Fandom. While many fans may have been anticipating a Batman-centric game from the developer, the opposite was revealed instead, with 4 Bat family members composing Gotham Knights' playable protagonists. Batgirl, Nightwing, Robin, and Red Hood are set to mainline WB Games Montreal's original entry in the DC mythos, which follows the developer's prequel entry in the Batman Arkham franchise. Similar to how Rocksteady started developing Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League sometime after Batman Arkham Knight, it was always assumed that WB Games Montreal was going to be given another DC-related property to work on after Batman Arkham Origins. Gotham Knights was initially delayed from its release window of 2021 into 2022, and has now been given a seemingly firm release date of October 25, 2022. In what appears to be a fateful coincidence, this release date coincides with a significant anniversary for WB Games Montreal. Batman Arkham Origins originally launched on October 25, 2013. The launch of Gotham Knights will also mark the 9th anniversary of Batman Arkham Origins, barring any unexpected delays that may occur. Batman Arkham Origins put WB Games Montreal on the map in terms of its rise as a new developer and subsidiary of Warner Bros. Interactive. However, Gotham Knights will be the first title WB Games Montreal has shipped since Batman Arkham Origins, which makes the shared release dates that much more special and memorable. Because both games share a release date anniversary, there is inherently a bond between the two, and it might be impossible to resist comparing them. Batman fans have also been longing for another game since Rocksteady's final entry, Batman Arkham Knight. Gotham Knights will have some insurmountable expectations to meet. Fortunately for WB Games Montreal, Gotham Knights is intended to be a very different experience that can stand on its own. Indeed, it is preferable for WB Games Montreal to get an authentic stab at a DC property that is not contingent on another developer's established continuity or development build, as was the case with Batman Arkham Origins, retreading the structural foundations of Batman Arkham City. Instead, Gotham Knights allows WB Games Montreal to establish its own unique identity with a title that is unrelated to Rocksteady's formula and Batman as a playable protagonist. Interestingly, it does not look like Gotham Knights will be drawing too much, if at all, from Batman Arkham Origins gameplay-wise, besides its grapnel gun perch traversal. Even the combat looks largely different from the single gameplay presentation Gotham Knights showcased, especially since it is reportedly introducing action RPG builds and gear perks that have not been fully disclosed thus far. This is also likely due to its emphasis on cooperative two-player multiplayer. It is arguable that Batman Arkham Origins did little to innovate from Batman Arkham City in terms of gameplay, aside from its addition of Deathstroke's remote claw gadget and Electrocutioner's shock gloves. Batman Arkham Origins featured different multiplayer modes, with players taking on the role of Batman, Robin, and thugs affiliated with either Bane or Joker. However, no such modes have been teased for Gotham Knights, while its entire narrative experience has been marketed as a single-player or multiplayer co-op experience, depending on how fans wish to play. Whether players enjoyed WB Games Montreal's take on Rocksteady's established series or not, Gotham Knights has shown off a number of flashy gadgets and unique character traits that dissociate it from any of the larger comparisons. Further, it is clear that WB Games Montreal is making a conscious choice to create this delineation and revel in the authenticity of its own IP. That said, it will be exciting to see how much the developer has learned since Batman Arkham Origins 9 years ago. If Gotham Knights becomes its own Batman Arkham in terms of a dedicated franchise with multiple installments, WB Games Montreal could introduce other interesting characters from the mythos for players to explore, and choose different narratives for sequels that challenge each of its playable protagonists. I'm actually more excited for Gotham Knights than Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, which was delayed into 2023. The PlayStation VR2 headset has been officially unveiled and Sony's plans to improve the device across the board are now confirmed. It's not just about the VR headset screens, improved to 2000 by 2040 resolution per eye from 960 by 1080, or an increase in the field of view from 100 degrees to 110 degrees. Sony's also improving the PSVR2 sensory technology, features that work with users' sight, hearing, and touch. That's what makes a newly published Sony patent tied to an headset haptics sensors particularly interesting. The Positional Haptics via head-mounted peripheral patent was published on Friday, though it was initially filed internationally on April 8, 2021. The patent is based around building a system of haptic sensors into a given headset. The PSVR2 headset is not specifically mentioned, though the original PSVR headset is shown in a drawing as an example device. Rather, the patent references a virtual headset. This virtual headset's movement would move in the same position and orientation of the player's character in-game. In effect, it's describing a virtual reality headset. The patent itself describes using the haptics built into a given headset to communicate 3D audio cues to the player. More specifically, the patent describes using the haptic sensors in the headset to measure the player's head's relation to audio objects in a video game. With that in mind, a magnitude based on the distance to the audio object, frequency, and audio data based for that specific audio object would then be used to determine control of the haptic feedback of the sensors. To summarize, it's a technology for introducing a feeling of touch to a video game experience, akin to how the PlayStation Dualsense controllers introduce a feeling of touch through a player's hands. In an ideal scenario, imagine haptics being able to tease the feeling of wind running through the player's hair when an audio cue might not be appropriate, or movement increasing in intensity as players move toward an important noise. Sony's announcement of the PSVR2 did not specifically mention haptic sensors being included in the headset, but it's basically the same idea without mentioning the word haptics. As part of the PSVR2's new sensory features, it's mentioned that headset feedback is included. Headset feedback is described as amplifying the sensations of in-game actions from the player. It could potentially be used to show the player character's elevated pulse, objects flying past the character's head, or the movement of a vehicle as it speeds forward. Perhaps the technology described in the new patent will be utilized in the PSVR2, or perhaps Sony's using separate technology for the PSVR2's sensory feature. Either way, it's clear that Sony is exploring ways to further immerse players in video games, expanding sensory input, and enhancing 3D audio and surround sound. PSVR2 is something that many gamers have had their eyes on since it was first discussed back in 2019. Since then, news has either been leaking out on the product through the internet, or Sony itself has confirmed what will be new and improved on PSVR2 in comparison to PlayStation's first foray into the VR platform. While VR has been available through other headsets, its popularity is hitting new highs according to VR-related insurance. Sony unveiled the design of PlayStation VR2, and it seems to fit right into the PS5 family. With a sleek black and white design and gray accents over the system, it shows a clear design change from the first PlayStation VR. Also, new details were released about some of the hardware details on PlayStation VR2. It will have a greater focus on comfort for the wearer, with vents that will stop users overheating, and a lens adjustment dial allowing for all to experience a better VR picture quality. These seem like great quality of life improvements to make PSVR2 a more accessible platform than its predecessor. A recent patent acquisition by Sony may also indicate another new feature coming to PlayStation VR2. This patent revolves around automatic head positioning of a heads-up display based on gaze tracking. In the details of the patent, it reads that the headset will track the gaze of the user as the user engages in interactivity with the view of the virtual environment. This means that rather than users having to tilt their head to look around, the PlayStation VR2 would allow for users merely to use their eyes to look around. By the description of the patent, this new feature for PlayStation VR2 would not be dissimilar from the eye tracking technology that some YouTubers and streamers used for viral videos. Gaze tracking for PlayStation VR2 was already hinted at way back in May of 2021, as a leaker dug into the potential upgrades of PlayStation VR2. While this feature isn't yet fully confirmed, both pieces of evidence make it seem likely that PSVR2 will have gaze tracking. Even with all of these new features though, the PSVR2 will need some VR games to help sell it. So far, a new game in the Horizon franchise has been announced for the product, and popular PC title Pavlov is slated to be coming to PSVR2. So far though, there have been few games officially confirmed for PSVR2, though as Sony unveils more about the system, the games that can be played on it are sure to follow. Over the past few years, virtual reality has been one of the fastest growing ways for players to experience video games, with VR setups rapidly becoming more compact and affordable. The Oculus Quest 2 has seen massive popularity since its release in 2020, and now a company specializing in VR accessories is looking to bring the virtual reality experience to the next level. Hardware developer ProTube VR has made a name for itself for providing a wide array of accessories for players looking to enhance their VR experience across several different game genres. The company has produced products to simulate the feeling of a gun for VR shooters, joysticks for VR games like No Man's Sky, as well as a saber attachment for players looking for a different way to play rhythm games like Beat Saber. Now, a recent patent filed by the company may give a hint at the VR enthusiasts' next endeavor. A patent publication filed by ProTube VR suggests that the accessory developer is looking into several new ideas for VR accessories, with an emphasis on providing a sense of realism across several genres. The patent includes a clause that makes specific mention of force feedback, implying the accessories will be able to simulate the feeling of physical attributes like weight through the accessory. While no official mention has been made of a new product from ProTube VR, the contents of the patent imply the company's next product will look to add a sense of physical immersion to VR games. The addition of a new accessory to ProTube VR's lineup comes as companies are constantly innovating with virtual reality devices, with each new iteration becoming more accessible. A recent report from insurance company Aviva shows a spike in VR-related insurance claims over the past few years, and the advent of products like the Oculus Quest and Quest 2 have made the devices far more portable. This has led to a significant rise in popularity for VR headsets, and with the rise of PlayStation VR2 it could transition into the next level. As virtual reality becomes more of a mainstay in the gaming industry, companies like ProTube VR will look to provide players with a unique way to experience their favorite games. The Dualsense controller for the PlayStation 5 has received a lot of praise since the console's release in 2020. Its haptic feedback and triggers that adapt to what is happening in-game have been widely praised, and the controller is held as the best in recent console history. But this does not mean the Dualsense is free from all the problems known to plague video game controllers. When analog sticks were added in the 90s, the industry as a whole agreed this would be the new standard for moving and controlling the camera in a 3D space. But with the analog stick, of course, eventually came stick drift. Any console's analog stick sensitivity is known to fade with repeated use. This can manifest in gameplay in two ways. Either a dead zone will appear in the center of the stick's movement, or the stick will be in an always-on state causing the camera or characters to move in-game even when no one is touching the controller. Every new generation of controllers has tried to tackle this problem in some way, and now Sony has made some subtle changes to the latest DualSense controllers that could tackle the issue further. The three latest DualSense color variants are Starlight Blue, Galactic Purple, and Nova Pink. But a video by YouTuber TronixFix has revealed that the color change is not the only thing new about these controllers. Taking apart the controller to examine the components, TronixFix found two changes from the original DualSense design. One is that the springs for the adaptable triggers have been changed from 0.25mm thick to 0.3mm, which could increase the durability of the trigger sensitivity. Also, the plastic clips holding the analog sticks have been altered, which could indicate a more supported analog stick to help stop stick drift. It is unclear yet whether this design tweak will have any noticeable impact on the durability of the DualSense analog sticks, as stick drift only appears after continuous repeated use, and the new controllers are still all fairly unused. But it's good that Sony is still working to optimize and make meaningful changes to the DualSense controller design even after release. Hopefully, these design changes won't be exclusive only to the latest color variation releases. Instead, being applied to all continued manufacturing of the existing models of DualSense controllers. And that's all for the video, guys. Like and share the video for a greater audience. Comment your thoughts on the topics, and donations are always appreciated. Subscribe to the channel and click the bell icon, and until then, from SMPV, it's goodbye.